Ready?
Hey.
All right. Welcome to the Man to Man podcast. We're back for another episode. Mike Mikowski, Dennis Lemire. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. So It's the end of summer. We're getting into fall here. And we usually try to do 2 retreats a year. We try to do our basic that we do in January. That's been great. We call it like the hardcores, right? The people that are willing to get out where it might be 5 feet of snow. It might be -10. It might be 30 and sunny. You just never know.
We've had both.
Midwest, right? Yeah. So it's really for the heart, some people that want to get out and really start off their year well. And then we've tried to do a summer/fall retreat every year. And this year we're doing Becoming a King again. So this will be our second one.
Yep.
Becoming a King that we've done. It is at the end of September. The signups are open right now. The registration's open on the website. So man.org. You can go sign up. Those will be closing in the next 5 or 6 days, so we can get a number to the camp.
Right.
So guys that are out there that want to attend, get out, get signed up, get registered. We've got space still. It's going to be good. There's a good, looking at the list of names, I know there's a lot of people that I recognize that have been to other retreats of ours. There's guys that we don't know that are coming from other groups that we've partnered up with, Eric and Olaf and Skip and all those guys. They've all sort of, Joe and his crew, they've put the word out, and we're going to have quite the range. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the Becoming a King. It's always fun to get out. This retreat is something a little different because of the way that it's structured and how a little more personal it is. With the guys.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And the fact that, that it's just a great opportunity for you, whether you've been to one or you haven't been to one, it's a great opportunity for either one, bring some friends with you, or 2, every time we've done these and led these, we get changed. I mean, God does a work in our hearts every single time. And so that's why we continue them, is because you trust the process and God opens you up and shows you stuff,
right,
and breaks you and then heals you, and you leave there different. And I'll do those every week, I'll do them every year, and again, with the basic, it is a great way to just say, God, I'm going to go to you first for the year,
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, we've had both. We've had it where it was freezing cold, 10 below zero, and guys are out there by the fire, man. It didn't matter. And then we've had it where it was too warm and we couldn't go out on the lake, and we played boot hockey in the parking lot. And then we had the other year where it was 100 feet of snow. So we've covered the gamuts of that. But so I'd encourage any of you guys, when you hear this podcast, to just, if you haven't gone to Becoming a King, sign up.
It's great. I mean, the content is good, right? I mean, in the end, the content is we're using the wild at heart content. Yeah. So this is a Becoming a King retreat based on the book by Morgan Snyder, Becoming a King. And so the content is theirs. The whole retreat effectively is theirs. We follow their schedule for the most part. We have to rearrange for meals a little bit, but we follow their schedule. We do it's all their content that we're sharing in terms of the sessions and the way that they have it planned out. Like, everything is theirs. Yeah. But so the content's great. I mean, we know from the Wild at Heart crew, they just don't do anything that's bad.
No.
But the thing that I love the most about these, I think, is bringing it into your world, right? Is taking that content and bringing it into your group, the people that are around you, your circumstances, you personally, right? Every single time, like you said, I've been at a different place. I think we always are, right? Yeah. In the end, we're at different places in our life. We're constantly evolving and changing. And so being able to take that and bring it into where you are right now, it seems like it's always, the content is always apropos to where I am in that moment. Yep. It never gets stale. It's never old. And there's always something that I can apply to where I'm at in that moment, which is, to me, the greatest part about these retreats is that they're like alive. They're continuing evolving because you're there with different people,
right?
And so you get to know other guys,
and you're in different seasons of your life,
right?
And I mean, because the questions they ask us and the things that they talk about, every man, no matter who you are, deals with.
Right. Yeah. This is not. By the way, and again, just to be sure that we're making sure people are aware. Like, this is not your typical men's retreat for church. Like, I hate to even call it a retreat in some ways. I mean, we do, because that's what the Heart team calls it. But it's not. I mean, I've gone to plenty of church men's groups and things like that, right? And this is not that by any sense of the imagination. This is guys who are coming together and saying, how do we do this?
Right, exactly.
You know, how do we do Thursday? How do I do these kids?
Right.
You know, how do I
do this marriage?
How do I do this marriage? You know, how do I do this divorce? How do I do this breakup? How do I do me?
Exactly.
Right? I mean, how many times have you just found where, at least for me, you know, this is where I'm like, I wish this were about my kids or, you know, my marriage or my job, but no, like, this is me working on me.
Right.
And that's the hardest part, because the last thing we want to do is look at ourselves and go, oh boy, I have some things that I need to work on in me.
Right.
And so this isn't your typical, you know, you're not going to go and sit in pews and, you know, and I mean, it's just not. Whatever guys think this is as a men's retreat from a church, this isn't that.
No.
It's completely different. But it also is led, of course, by, you know, it's scripturally based.
Yeah.
It's led by guys who are walking with Christ and living a life of initiated manhood, you know, and so there's a lot to it. So I think it's
it's all ages. I mean, we got guys that come there that are 86 years old, and keeps coming back every year, and you know, and we have 18-year-olds. I mean, so it's just, if you're a man and you're asking questions like, do I have what it takes? You know, how do I do this thing called life? I'm telling you right now, you'll leave with something that God wants to say to you every time.
For sure. So in the notes for the show, I'll put the link to sign up for the registration. Also put the link to the ad, basically, for the retreat, to say what it is, and so guys can watch it, so they can get some more information there. They can go and register and join us. We'd love to have them come. Again, it's the last weekend in September. You know, starts out on Thursday evening and ends on Sunday at noon, and covers a ton of ground in between there. So,
and you know, and just I just really feel like saying this: if you're out there and you've been to one and you can't go, invite other people. Yeah. Send a list of texts to 10 or 12 guys that you know that this could affect. You know, I mean, spread the word. I mean, if you can't, like, say, if you can't make it this year, tell others about it, especially if you've had your life changed by it. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't, an invite's never wrong.
Right.
And so, send it out.
All they can say is no.
That's right.
Right.
And then your feelings get hurt, and then you'll have to come back to the event.
Right. Yeah. I get told no enough times. I'm not worried about it.
All right.
So it's kind of fun. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and this is something that I was feeling, and I didn't bring it up. Thankfully, somebody else did, so it made me realize this isn't just me, right? But we wanted to dive down this. It's John Eldridge has talked about multiple times about this. This like great resignation almost, right? Which we went through a period after, so we had the COVID obviously thing that happened. Everybody was, you know, quarantined and separated and all the stuff that we did for COVID. That sort of passed. And, you know, we ended up in this period where people were expecting things to go back to the normal. Right? And the way that it was. And it didn't. For most people, right? Things had changed. Something in our society had changed. Yeah. And so a lot of people at that time felt this despair almost, right? Where there was a lot of people that didn't go back to work. You know, there was a lot of people that retired or just quit their jobs and, you know, and went to do something else.
And quit their families. And
there's a lot of people that quit their families, right? And walked away from families and relationships and friends. Right, it's split friends. Or are you a masker or not masker? Are you vaccinated or not vaccinated? Do you believe that, you know, I mean, all this stuff, it sent the divide down. A lot of people were friends and family a lot of times were you know, so there was this time period after that where that sort of happened. And John talks about that before his, you know, the one book that he wrote where he came up with the Pause app and everything called Get Your Life Back. And he talked about that time period. But that has sort of passed in some ways. And I think we've gotten back to some semblance of a routine in our life, and people are sort of starting to feel their way through that. And there's been sort of a little bit of a revival in that. But lately, right? And for me, it really has been, somebody said, has it been since the September 1st? No, I think for me, it's been probably about a month or so where I've just felt physically tired.
Right.
Like I said, I started to really think maybe I need to go and see a doctor almost and get blood work done. People talk about, I'm not young anymore. I just turned 48, this last month. And so, they talk about, you should go get blood work done, and, and maybe I need to be on vitamins and this, that, and the other thing. And
colonoscopy.
Yeah, no. But, you and Britt. But, and so I was thinking that maybe it was just medical.
Right.
And so I was processing through this, and I don't go to the doctor at all. Whenever you have to fill out a form that says who's your primary physician, I just am like, beats me, right? Like 911, like if something happens, it's an emergency. So, the ambulance driver is probably going to be my primary physician at that moment. I just don't go. I do not go to the doctor.
Right.
I can't tell you the last time I went to a doctor. I just don't. And so thinking like, oh my gosh, I probably need to at this point, because 8:00 at night rolls around and I'm like, it's time for bed. I'm tired. Like I'm yawning. I'm embarrassed by it sometimes because it's 8:00.
Right.
I'm not 78. What is happening right now? I was down visiting my mom, and my her husband, my stepdad, 83 years old, and I'm like, Joe, I gotta go to bed. And he's staying up watching Judge Judy, and I'm heading to bed because I'm tired. And and he was watching Judge Judy, but so I was thinking it was me.
Right.
And then I said something the other day, or you said something the other day. You said, a lot of guys that I'm talking to are saying that they're feeling this tired, this weariness, this just, not despair, I think, the way John was explaining it, but just tired overall.
Weary.
Yeah, and weary. And that's, I was like, oh boy, okay, so maybe it's not me, which I like, because I don't want to go to the doctor.
Right.
I don't want to do all that stuff that people that love me want me to do. But maybe there's something else to this. So, I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because I think that what happens a lot of times is we don't pan back and go, what is going on here? Sometimes you have to go to the doctor. Frankly, again, I want guys to know that if you got something going on medically, go to the doctor.
Exactly.
I'm a bad example. You should do that. Take care of yourself. Don't be me, right? Take care of yourself. But sometimes there's a bigger picture going on, and it's hard to think that, because it gets a little bit, well, am I seeing things? Am I, what's happening? But when you start to see it, the pattern,
right,
then you start to go, okay, what's going on? And we're in an election year, as everyone who's listening has to know by now, because you can't turn on a TV or a radio or pick up social media or talk to somebody or go to a restaurant and hear discussion about it, right? So there's that, which always brings a little bit of a weariness to it. I shouldn't say always. For some of us, it brings weariness to it, because it's a time of dissension and arguing and disagreement.
It's become that,
Yeah, typically our elections here in America, that's the way they are. And so there's some of that comes with that, but it sure feels like it's more than that right now, that there's more to it than that. So bail me out. I don't have to go to the doctor, because you've been hearing it too. So, give me some ideas of some of the things, the guys that you're talking to, and how it's coming up in their lives. For me, it's just this physical tiredness when I don't feel like I should be physically tired.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely something going on in our world and around us, but I'm still going to tell you to go to the doctor. Not bailing you out, dude. There's something in a man that just wants, you break a leg, it'll be fine. Put some duct tape on it, we'll be good. But yeah, now that I'm going to be 58 in the next week or so, my body is I'm starting to feel all those football falls and ankle twists, and but yeah, it's definitely out there. And even though there's a lot of churches even talking about it, that there is just this sense of spiritual weariness that it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter, if you're successful and not successful. It doesn't matter if you got a hardworking job or you sit in an office. There is this weight that is going on. And Carrie and I 3 months ago said to each other that there's going to be something significant in September. And we thought it was just for us.
Sure.
We thought, I have heard probably 6 to 8 other men that I know of, men of God that I know of, the same, there's something significant. But the majority of the people that we talk to are dealing with the same thing. They're just tired and wore out. And isn't it interesting that when we get that way, we immediately go, there's something wrong with me.
Right. For sure.
Right. That's the first go-to is like, what am I doing wrong? God, have I lost my relationship with you? Have I been reading my Bible enough? We tend to go into this, which I don't necessarily think is wrong, to do a heart check. Right. You know what I mean? But what I'm finding out is that it has nothing to do with that. What it has to do is, I really believe it's just a spiritual attack on the human race right now to just wear us down. And, there's a scripture in Daniel that John talks about all the time. And in Daniel 7:25, it says, he shall speak words against the Most High and shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
So the he in there is referring to...
Yep. The enemy.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. That he will speak words against the Most High and he shall wear the saints out of the Most High. And I think instead of it isn't necessarily he's using tragedy anymore. He's just kind of slowly but surely laying the weight on. Even like I told you earlier, I woke up, just moved into this place and I woke up this morning and I had this overwhelming sense of loneliness.
Right.
And I mean, yes, I haven't seen my wife in a couple of weeks, but it was almost, I almost cried. I'm like, where is this coming from? What, this sense of loneliness. And as soon as I sat back for a minute, I went, oh, okay. Right. No. This isn't loneliness, even though I could be lonely, because I miss my wife. It was a spiritual thing. It was out of the norm. It was very strong, very powerful, and catch you by surprise. And I think that has something to do with this.
Right. One of the things that you said, even just when we were praying earlier was, this idea of, man, I just have so many things going on and trying to catch, like, what do I need to do next? Right. And that just sort of jumped out at me even in the moment. Because I think for guys, at least, that can be a result of this weariness, right? Because for most guys, you're used to just going and doing and getting things done and being motivated and having the energy and strength to get the things you need done. But when you don't have that, then it feels like I'm not getting anything done.
Right. And then you force yourself, which causes you to be more tired.
Right.
You're pushing yourself harder, thinking that you're not. That's one thing that kept hitting me about this conversation is the thing that I want to say is we have to understand it's not our fault. Now, there are some things that I do that are my fault, but that's one of the things that I think the enemy can do. He's like, it's your fault, Danny. You've been doing this and you've been doing this and you've been doing this. It's your fault. That's why you're tired. It's your fault. That's why you're tired. And this is what I'm coming to realize, that that's an accusation. There's two things that the enemy can do. He can accuse us, or he can either make accusation against us, or he deceives us. Those are his two operating motives. And that's what he does. He immediately goes in and goes, well, Mike, you know what? Because you've taken too much on.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And I've taken a lot more on than I've got right now in my life.
For sure.
But that's what he wants me to do. He's accused me of, well, see, you're just taking too much on.
Right. And for me, I've been having fun. Like I have. I've been I took my kids down to Florida. Right. I was out in Colorado. Right. I mean, for a week. I mean, I've been having a lot of good times.
Yeah.
But I still felt, well, maybe you need to tone it back.
Yeah.
And
now you're feeling guilty
doing
for
too
that.
much. Right. Yeah. And I'm thinking, but it was relaxing in a lot of ways, and it was fun. It wasn't adding stress or wearing me out. It was actually recharging.
Yeah.
But that even the decision to do that, like we actually were going to take another trip to go visit my brother in October, and I'm just thinking about it now, decided not to because I was like, well, we need to take a step back and not do as much. But it was fun. It should recharge me.
Right.
But I'm pulling back from that
Yeah.
because I'm thinking, well, it's my fault.
Yeah.
This is because I've taken on too much. I'm doing too much.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things that you don't want to allow when you feel that sense of weariness, or if you're feeling that sense of weariness, because the enemy, he'll use this to attack your identity right off the bat. He'll say, "Well, Dennis, if you were a son of God,
Right.
you wouldn't be tired,
Right.
right?
Sure.
If you're the son of God, if you're His son, God wouldn't do this to you. And it's like, the enemy loves to try to take out. I mean, that's what he did to Jesus in the garden, right? If you're the son of God, turn this rock into bread, right? Gets into, and that's what this weariness is having a tendency to do, is cause me to question, well, gosh, if I was really being obedient to the Lord, I'd be filled with energy all the time, or I'd be, you know what I mean? And that's, once again, it's not your fault. It's not true. Paul was really, really close to Jesus, and he got beaten, flogged, and all this other kind of stuff. But what we're talking about is this weariness. So if you start to question yourself, you start to, gosh, if I was the son of God, maybe my relationship with God is off. No.
Right. And what that drives you to do a lot of times is go to your checklist, right? So, I think all of us, I don't speak for I know I've got a mental checklist, a spiritual checklist per se, where I go, okay, have I been reading? Have I been in my Bible? Have I been praying? Have I been talking to other guys around me that are like-minded? Have I, and I go through my checklist basically, and that's where, as a guy, I think a lot of us will go to is our mental checklist.
Yeah.
What am I working out in the morning? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? And that, in this instance, it adds to that weariness because now you're getting down on yourself. Oh no, I missed 3 out of 5 days last week, or I haven't been to the gym in a week, or I haven't, I haven't called Mike, and I meant to call, this person and that person, but I didn't. And suddenly you're back in this hole of, I'm just exhausted by all this. Yeah. And so it's self-perpetuating.
Yes, exactly. And we perpetuate it.
Right.
Like even this place that I just, that I'm starting to rent here, I felt a sense of weariness yesterday. No, the day before when we actually came into the place, I felt a sense of weariness, and I said, maybe God, maybe you didn't say this to do this. Now I start to question what I think He said to me.
Right.
Maybe that's why I'm feeling weary. Because, I missed you on this decision, because look at, the enemy's great at showing all the crap. Look at, you got new bills now, and you got and that's where I had to step back again and go, whoa, wait a minute. No, I trust that you said this. I believe that you said this. That's where I love what John always tells you to do in that moment, invite Jesus into that moment,
right?
That feeling, right? I did that. And I'm like, nope, that's good. But that didn't change the weariness.
Right.
Right?
It might change your perspective.
It changed my perspective, right? But there's this sense of weight and weariness is just here. Mm-hmm. And that's why I wanted to talk about it today. It's not something that we're doing wrong or that we're questioning God on. I just think that the enemy is trying to wear down the saints right now. He's trying to wear us down with everything that's the barrage of information and things that we have downloading into our system every single day. Mm-hmm. That's why these retreats are so great.
Right.
You you disconnect from that stuff for 4 days.
That's good, because I think that, the answer, the question here would be, so what the heck do I do? Right. So if you're, and this is where we always try to go on this podcast, right? Yeah. Is you find yourself in this situation. If you're a guy out there right now and you're like, I'm so tired, I don't want to even listen to this podcast, right? I mean, you're just beat up. You're feeling it. Right now you're going, this is me, but what the heck do I do? Right? I think that we've said it before, but you can go back to why these retreats, I think that's a good point. Why these retreats are successful is because you disconnect.
Yes.
And if you haven't done that in a long time, maybe that would be helpful, is to take some time to disconnect, because there's nothing better to allow you to hear God than to remove all the other voices.
Right.
Right. Then it's just you and God. And so it's one of you speaking.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And that's what's so great, the disconnection. But once again, don't let your disconnection cause you to isolate. That'll be another thing that you want to do. You want to isolate yourself. Why? Because I'm too tired. Right. Why would I go to an event? I'm just tired. I don't want to drive all the way there. So yes, disconnecting is good, but make sure you're connecting with like-hearted people. Mm-hmm. That's so key in this time. Why? Because we all need encouragement. We all need to know that we're all dealing with this. You sit down at a table with 10 guys and 9 or 8 of them are going to say they're weary too. And that does something to the soul, the realization that I'm not the only one.
Right.
So yeah, you want to disconnect from the world, but don't disconnect to the point where now you're isolating yourself from that encouragement of others, that uplifting of others. Actually, at those weekends, we disconnect to connect with God and other guys. Mm-hmm. And we find out that a lot of us are in the same boat. And do I believe this is specifically, on men? Yeah, I do. I believe we're feeling it more and more and more, because we're supposed to be leading. We're supposed to be the ones that are the protectors of our home and stuff like this. And so that's why I just think it's, I think it's all about war. I really do. I think the enemy is to the point where he's holding nothing back, and he's prolonging it, but he's just continually putting that weight on. And that's one of the ways that I can tell the difference is usually I can go to Christ, or I can invite Jesus into it and talk with him and pray. And usually there's a sense of release. Mm-hmm. There's a sense of relief. There's a sense of confidence I haven't got, but the weariness is still there, Right. So it's different. That's why I just really feel it's a whole different deal right now.
Right. Well, there's 2 ways to win a war, right? You can either completely annihilate the other force, or you can wear them down so long that they just give up.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, fine, I'm done. I can't win this,
right? And
so I'm not going to fight it anymore, right? Those are 2 ways you win. And so, I think that the scorched earth mentality that, is obviously hasn't worked over the years. And so we're in that wear it down phase. Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough to keep fighting, frankly. It's tiring. So I think the important thing for guys to realize, there's a bunch of them, but one of them I think is to understand, one, what's going on inside of you. So again, having this realization like I went through of, if something's going on with me, I need to go see a doctor, I think there's something medically going on. And then hearing the other guys say it, I'm going, well, now I need to figure out what is actually going on. So understanding that something is going on, I think is important, right? To just take that as a fact. Right. There's something going on. But then I think also what happened to me this morning, actually, funny enough, was realizing that it affects the people around me. Oh, yeah. This morning and last night. Last night I was having a discussion with my youngest son. And it was one of those times, he's 15. So we were at one of those places where it could go either direction, right? Like he was saying some things where I just wanted to be like, this discussion's over because you're 15 and I'm not. And so we're just going to call it a day, right? Or I could swallow all of that and ask some questions and try to have understanding and push through that, right? And continue on even though it was not going well, right? Like I'm gonna stay in this fight even though I'm losing badly. And that's where I was at. That's where I was at in this discussion with him. And frankly, I was tired. Again, I was in this stage. It was later at night. I think it was 9:30. It was after our meeting, so 10 o'clock.
Oh boy, that was late.
Yeah, so it was late, and I was just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have this conversation with him. I'm tired. I know I'm not at 100%, but I just leaned into this conversation, and it turned out to be pretty positive and pretty good. I mean, it was a really good conversation. It ended up being very positive. And we worked through some things that he needed to work through and that I needed to be there for him to work through. And so this morning when I got up, I started to think about, man, if I would have let that weariness. I mean, it could have been very easy to say, let's just talk about this tomorrow.
Right.
Let's just come back when I've got
That's
some
good,
energy,
yeah.
right? How you affect other people is important because he needed that.
Right.
And he needed me to show up in that moment and push through where I was at, frankly.
Right.
And so understanding how it affects other people is super important. And then, I was having a conversation with Britt and I realized that, I wasn't showing up the way I wanted to. And that wasn't bad. I wasn't, it wasn't nothing super negative, but it wasn't, again, I was letting this kind of, I'm tired. Can we move this conversation along, thing, and after the conversation, again, I realized that's not how I want to show up to the people around me. So understanding how it affects the people around you is also important but not letting that be something that's a weight on you.
Right.
You have to have that balancing act.
Right.
Like, I need to understand that this affects people around me, but I also can't let that push me back further down.
Yep, exactly. And the big thing that's been hitting me is that my self-confidence is turning into self-doubt. The things that I was confident and have been confident in, I'm beginning to doubt, and that's a trigger for me. It's like, whoa, I've been confident in this for years. There's things that I'm confident in the Lord. There's things that I kind of, me and him have our own little arguments, and there are things that I'm just not confident at all in.
Right.
And so that, that's another sign to me that when all of a sudden I'm starting to doubt something I've been confident in his word for so many years, there's something more going on. It isn't me. It's not my fault. That's the big thing that I think both Denny and I want to get across is that what you're feeling right now, this weariness, that's why I think something significant is about to occur in our world.
Okay.
That's why I think something significant is going to occur.
Sure.
There's going to be a rising up of good. I mean, good, something tragic, but something good is going to come out of it because everybody is feeling it. Right. And I think one of the things that we want you to let you know is it's not battle it. Don't fight it because it's just going to cause you to be more weary. Understand that you got to walk in it and do it. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and realize that this is something we all need to be praying about for our world, not just for us, for our families, not just for us. Carrie and I's daily prayer, we do John Elder's daily prayer, and we've included 2 or 3 different. We included our kids' homes and my kids' homes, and that the canopies and hedges of their homes are being protected because something's going on, and I'm not gonna say a prophetic word on it or anything like that, but I'm sure there's some out there. But I think that's why, because he wants us to be so wore out when this happens, we have nothing left. And like you said, a lot of time it's self-inflicting because we don't. Right. We're trying to fix it. We're trying to attend to it.
Yeah, I was listening to Erwin McManus. It was a recent podcast. I don't know if it was his most recent one, but anyways, he said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember this word for word, but he said that people feel like they are experiencing trauma, but it's actually that life is trauma. Yes, that's good. And how you respond to those experiences are what makes your life, be it good or bad. Right. Again, paraphrasing is what he said. So that in the end, people right now, specifically in our culture currently, everybody, this trauma thing is just, everybody's talking trauma responses and trauma this. And every time I do any training at work, they're talking about, you be careful, this trauma, that. Well, he basically boiled it down to, hey, listen, life is trauma. Yeah. It's the whole thing is. Yeah. It's the whole existence. Right. It's how you respond to that that determines which direction your life goes. Yeah. And I think that this is part of that. This weariness that we're feeling this is life. Like we are in, the way John puts it, another way to put it is, as John Eldridge puts it, is that we live in a love story set in a world at war. Right, exactly. Right? Like there is a war, spiritual war going on around us, and physical wars for some people. There's war going on around you, and you are here in this. Right. So to remember that is. It's tough, and not to say that, hey, this is going to answer it all, because this isn't an answer. No. It's an understanding.
And that's what I think is so key about it is it's an understanding. Even Jesus said, in this world there will be time, there will be trouble. I mean, he says it straight up.
You will. He says,
yes,
you will be
trouble. There'll be trouble. Yeah. And that's what I think we're trying to bring to this is that if you have this sense of weariness, understand that there is something bigger going on. Mm-hmm. It's not some bad decision you necessarily made, or you forgot to read your Bible yesterday, or you didn't go to the Bible study. No, and then once again, you start to try to fix it. And that's what I think our message here today is stop trying to fix the weariness. Understand that there's something big going on here. Operate the best you can out of it, and I'm not saying to never, yes, there may be some people that are weary and this isn't it. Maybe you're weary because you do work 700 hours a week.
Right. Yeah. Take stock of
right. That's what I'm saying. Check your heart.
Right.
Check your heart. Do a heart check. But we just want everybody to know that there is something going on, and I think it's bigger than us, but yet the enemy wants us to think it is us.
Right.
Right. So that we will try to fix it.
Yeah.
And become more weary.
You'll either push yourself more, get tired, or like you said earlier, you'll withdraw.
Yeah.
And you'll pull back from everything.
Yep.
And now he's got you doing nothing.
Now he's got you isolated. Right?
So, both things are just as bad. You're isolated and you're alone and you're not doing anything positive at all.
Right.
And you're just kind of existing.
Right.
Or you're pushing yourself so hard to I'm going to try to fix this, that you end up getting even more.
Right.
Tired. And both are bad, right? We have to live. It's crazy because this is just very, very normal, I think, for Christianity, is that we just have to float in this middle area so much.
Right. And there's been so many years, for those that know my past, there's been so many years that I would quote scripture and beat it up. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it worked. For sure. I mean, there were, and that's why, once again, why I said said a little bit ago that there are things that I have concrete that I know the Bible says about Mike Mikulski, who I am and what he's called me to be. There's just concrete. And, my past was just confess the word over, so, you're not tired anymore, and even to the point where you're throwing up sick in the toilet going, I'm not sick. You're sick, I mean, I was there for many years. And what did that cause? After it just caused a sense of, I forgot my own heart, which is part of my testimony about the basic and what God's shown me through the first basic I went to. The reality is that I was using all these things thinking I was getting release. Yeah. And really what I was doing is damaging my heart even more and burying it even more and wondering why I was so tired. So I mean, yes, if you've been in that era, where you can, yes, of course, definitely do that. If you feel this weariness is something you can confess and attack and believe that God could, go for it.
Right.
But if it doesn't happen, don't let the enemy turn into a self-doubt and think that your relationship is not good with God. Because it goes back to John's question. Mm-hmm. Do I have what it takes? Maybe I don't have what it takes to live in this time frame. Right. In Acts, God says that he purposely picked out the places you live in the time frame that you live in. Why? Because we're on purpose. Mm-hmm. So, the reality is, no, we live in this world right now, and there's a lot of weight right now, a lot of weight. And if the enemy can get us to believe it's us, and like you say, isolate, back away, the best thing you can do, you guys, I'm telling you straight up, is this.
Right. Yeah. Have these conversations.
If you're feeling this way and you're going, well, I'm feeling kind of worried too, but it's only me. Call up a friend, call up a buddy, and say, how have you been? And really ask the question, how you been? Because just having me and Denny just having this talk right now on this podcast, I feel lighter. I know the weariness is still there, but just being able to communicate it helps with that whole thing. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, it's good. So. Again, if you're there, if you're in this spot and you're in this place, reach out to somebody. If you don't have somebody, right? I mean, in the end, that's why we're here. Yeah. If you don't have somebody to reach out to, man to man, again, you go to the website. The link is always in the description. If you want to contact us, if you know us and you're feeling this way, like shoot us a text, right? Yeah. I mean, I think that both of us are more than happy to sit down and have these conversations and talk to people as much as we can.
I mean, that's a big part of what man to man is all about, you guys. That's why
all of it is, right?
Because I call it man to man is so that if you are in this spot or you're worried or whatever, you're feeling this too, and you just don't have anybody, a place to go or someone to talk to, that's what we're here for. I mean, that's what I do. That's what I love to do, is to be able to just sometimes just sit and listen. And it's not about me. It's not about getting advice. It's about just having an open communication like Dennis and I are having. You know, so please don't sit there and think that you're going to be a weight or a burden. That's the other thing. And well, Mike's too busy. No. But I'm not too busy for that. That's what I'm called to do. You know, and Denny, it's the same way. Those are the busy we like. Right. To be perfectly honest with you, I'd rather be talking to a guy about life than, you know, going and sweeping floors or whatever.
Yeah. Don't do it yourself. It's what we're here for. You know, reach out and, you know, and again, we were talking at the beginning of the podcast, you know, come to McGregor with us at the end of the month and hang out with a bunch of dudes who are trying to figure this thing out. Right. I mean, best thing about it is that we don't have this figured out. This whole podcast is about just having conversations about stuff that we don't have figured out. Neither one of us are experts in any of this, right? I mean, I'm not an expert in much, but definitely not in this. It's just stuff that guys go through, and where are we at? And just having these conversations, again, like you said, there's something to that. There's something to help that. So,
well, you know as well as I do that sometimes it's just good to dump on people. Just to get a lot of weight off. You know, that's what I do to Carrie. I do, and we will say it to each other. We'll say, you know, I don't want any advice. I just need to dump, and I will. And there's just something about getting it out of your heart and off your chest instead of hiding it and pushing it down and pushing it, because it's going to come out sooner or later.
Right.
But the one thing I just really feel to say right now is I really feel like God is giving us the strength in the weariness, not necessarily to overcome it.
Okay.
But he's giving us the strength because, you know, in this weariness right now, he's giving us the strength to move forward, to continue to do what he's called us to do. Not the strength to necessarily, you know, we're going to get out of it one day. Now it's going to happen. I know it is.
Sure.
But something's going to take place for that to happen. But so anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there.
Good. All right. So obviously with the podcast, you know, we just share this.
Yeah.
If you're a guy out there and this is speaks to you or touches you in any way, share it. We would love for you to share that. We'd also appreciate if you want to support Man to Man, right? Go to the website. There's a donate button there. You know, it helps us to further this and to be able to do more. Obviously, we want to be able to continue with this mission and be able to continue to push this mission forward. And to do that, it takes some people that are willing to support us and to be able to back it up and to help us to push this forward, to do more retreats, to be able to help guys like this. So, you know, if this is helping you, share it. That's the biggest thing. Just help us get the word out. And then if you want to go to the website and, you know, like I said, there's a donate button. They can support it. The link for the website will be in the description here. Right. And then for the guys that want to come up to McGregor and hang out, come up and hang out. It'd be good to see everybody. We recorded podcasts the last time we were up there. They were really good. So guys can go back if they go. It was 2 years ago in September. They can, if they search through the archives, they can find some of the interviews from guys that went to the last Becoming a King. It's amazing. We recorded it on like the Saturday night of the retreat. So they had been through like 80% of it, and listening to guys express what that did for them and where they were in that moment is pretty neat. And so some of, in my opinion, some of our best episodes were those guys and listening to their stories. So go back and watch some of that too.
Yeah, for sure. And so if you're out there, you're feeling that weariness, we're with you.
Yep.
We're in it too. And like I said, let's continue to move forward, continue to press on, and continue to realize that God's given us the strength inside this weariness. But together, you guys are going to do it it's going to be easier than trying to do it alone. So.
Right, for sure.